The Freeway Series just got taken over by the Dodgers. Pages and Max Muncy slug back-to-back home runs in a stunning back-to-back sequence that leaves the Angels' dugout completely speechless and Dodger Stadium absolutely rocking. This wasn't just a baseball moment, this was a statement. A young hungry Pages stepping into the spotlight and delivering, immediately followed by veteran Muncy refusing to let the momentum die. Back-to-back. Sequential. Devastating. The kind of 1-2 punch that rivalry games are remembered for decades later. Sometimes a game does not need a superstar to tell a story worth remembering. Sometimes the story belongs to the players who exist in the space just beyond the spotlight, the ones who show up every single day inside a roster built around names that carry more weight, more history, more global recognition than their own. The ones who prepare with the same intensity, compete with the same hunger, and wait with the specific patience of professionals who understand that their moment will come if they are ready when it arrives. The Freeway Series has a history of producing exactly those moments. There is something about this rivalry, about the specific electricity of a Los Angeles derby, two franchises sharing a city and a fan base and a history of genuine, unperformed competitive intensity, that creates the conditions for unexpected stories to emerge. For players who have been preparing in the background to walk to the front of the frame and claim something that belongs entirely to them. Pages and Max Muncy walked to the front of the frame. Back-to-back. Sequential. The specific, devastating combination of consecutive home runs that transforms a baseball game from a competition into a statement. Two players, connected by timing and circumstance and the shared electricity of a rivalry game that had been building toward exactly this kind of moment, sending back-to-back baseballs over the fence in a sequence that the crowd at that stadium will carry in their memory long after the final score has been forgotten. The Freeway Series had its moment. And it did not belong to anyone predicted. It belonged to Pages. It belonged to Muncy. And understanding why, understanding what those two consecutive home runs actually represented, what they cost, what they revealed about the players who hit them and the team they hit them for, requires going deeper than the highlight footage that circulated within minutes of the second ball clearing the fence. Before the home runs. Before the back-to-back sequence that defined this game. Before Pages and Muncy stepped into the specific pressure of a rivalry matchup and delivered something that the situation demanded but nobody guaranteed, a word about what the Freeway Series actually is and why it matters in a way that transcends the regular season context. Los Angeles is a baseball city in a way that its cultural reputation sometimes obscures. The entertainment industry, the beaches, the sprawling geography of a metropolis that contains multitudes, all of it creates a public perception of a city that treats sport as optional. As one entertainment option among many. As something to engage with when the team is winning and disengage from when the schedule becomes inconvenient. The Freeway Series dismantles that perception completely. When the Dodgers and Angels meet, when the two franchises that share this city bring their rosters and their histories and their competitive intentions into direct confrontation, Los Angeles becomes something else. The casual fans become invested. The invested fans become passionate. And the passionate fans become the kind of force that a stadium can feel physically, a pressure in the air that players on both sides register before the first pitch and carry through every inning until the final out. Players who have competed in Freeway Series games describe the atmosphere as different from ordinary interleague play. The proximity of the rivalry, the shared geography, the shared media market, the specific competitive history between two organizations that exist in permanent awareness of each other, creates stakes that the standings do not fully capture. Winning the Freeway Series means something beyond the games. It means something about the city. About which franchise owns the conversation for the weeks that follow. Pages and Muncy understood the weight of that context. And they delivered inside it with the specific timing that rivalry games reward and regular games cannot fully replicate. Pages arrived in professional baseball carrying the particular combination of talent and uncertainty that defines the prospect experience. The talent was never in question. His physical tools, the bat speed, the arm, the athleticism that translates across the multiple dimensions of the game, registered clearly enough that the Dodgers organization made the decisions they made about his development with confidence in the foundation they were building on. He could play. Everyone who watched him could see that. The question was timing. The question that the prospect experience always asks, regardless of talent level, is whether the internal development, the mental adjustment to professional pitching, the plate discipline that major league survival requires, the emotional maturity that sustains performance through slumps and uncertainty, and the specific difficulty of establishing yourself in a roster built around established names, was proceeding at the rate that the physical tools suggested it could. Inside the Dodgers organization, the answer had been a slow but genuine yes. Pages had been developing in the way that development is supposed to happen, not in a straight line, not without the setbacks that every young player navigates, but with the underlying trajectory pointing consistently in the right direction. The Freeway Series game found him at a moment when that trajectory intersected with opportunity. A rivalry game. A stadium charged with the specific energy that Los Angeles baseball derbies produce. A situation where the game needed something, in Pages, going through his preparation with the same focus he brings to every game regardless of opponent or circumstance, was positioned to provide it. When his pitch arrived, and it arrived in the specific location and at the specific velocity that his preparation had equipped him to handle, Pages did not hesitate. The swing was not tentative. It was not the swing of a young player managing his uncertainty by protecting himself from failure. It was the swing of a man who had been ready for this moment before the moment announced itself. The ball left the yard. The crowd responded with the specific, full-throated roar that Freeway Series home runs produce. And Pages, rounding the bases with the particular awareness of someone experiencing something real for the first time, felt the weight of what had just happened settle over him like something earned rather than given. That was the first one. Max Muncy watched Pages round the bases. He watched from the on-deck circle, close enough to feel the energy the home run produced, close enough to read the crowd, close enough to understand with the specific clarity that veteran hitters develop over years of professional experience exactly what the moment required next. Back-to-back home runs are not accidents. They require the second hitter to carry what the first hitter started, to take the momentum produced by a teammate's excellence and extend it, immediately, without interruption, into something that compounds rather than merely continues. The psychological weight of following a home run in a rivalry game is significant. The pitcher on the mound is already reeling. The fielders are already deflated. The crowd is already engaged at a level that makes the next at-bat feel enormous. For a young player, that weight can be paralyzing. For a veteran who has been in these situations, who has felt the specific pressure of a charged rivalry game and learned to draw energy from it rather than be diminished by it, it is an invitation. Muncy is a player whose career has been defined by the specific kind of mental toughness that produces results in exactly these situations. He has been counted out. He has navigated the kind of organizational uncertainty that tests whether a player's belief in himself is real or merely performed. He has come through the other side of those tests with something that cannot be manufactured from the outside, the earned confidence of a man who knows what he is capable of because he has already demonstrated it in moments that mattered. The Freeway Series at-bat that followed Pages' home run was exactly the kind of moment Muncy's career had been building toward. Not just in terms of the milestone, though the home run itself carried significance, but in terms of what it meant to be the veteran in that on-deck circle, watching a young teammate deliver something extraordinary, and responding by delivering something extraordinary of his own. His pitch arrived. His decision was immediate. The swing carried the weight of everything his career has produced, the adjustments, the recoveries, the accumulated knowledge of what it takes to hit a baseball in the most pressurized conditions the sport provides. The ball cleared the fence. Back-to-back. Sequential. Complete. The stadium understood what had happened before the second ball had fully landed. The specific energy that follows consecutive home runs, the recognition that something coordinated and devastating has just occurred, moved through the crowd in a wave that the players on both sides of the field felt simultaneously. There is a reason back-to-back home runs carry a weight that two separate home runs in the same game do not. The sequence changes everything. It transforms two individual performances into a collective statement. It takes the momentum produced by one player's excellence and immediately, ruthlessly extends it through a second player's excellence in a way that the opposing team, the pitcher already processing the failure of one pitch, has no recovery time to address. The second home run arrives while the first is still reverberating. While the pitcher is still trying to reset. While the fielders are still processing their positioning and the manager is still deciding whether to make a call to the bullpen. The back-to-back exploits the specific vulnerability of a team in the middle of absorbing a blow, hitting them again before they have finished falling from the first hit. Pages provided the blow. Muncy provided the follow-through. And the combination of the two, the young player and the veteran, the prospect fulfilling his potential and the established contributor affirming his value, both of them delivering in the specific heat of a rivalry game that demanded exactly this, was more than the sum of its individual parts. It was a statement about what this Dodgers roster can produce when the players outside the primary spotlight step into the light and claim what their preparation has made possible. Freeway Series games are remembered differently than other games. The performances that define them, the at-bats and the pitching sequences and the defensive plays that decide outcomes in the specific heat of a Los Angeles derby, carry a weight in organizational memory that equivalent performances in non-rivalry games simply do not match. Players who deliver in Freeway Series games are remembered for it. The narrative of the rivalry incorporates those performances and carries them forward into every subsequent edition of the matchup. Pages and Muncy delivered back-to-back in the Freeway Series. That fact is now permanent, embedded in the specific history of a rivalry that stretches back decades and that will continue forward through seasons not yet played. Future editions of this matchup will carry the knowledge of what happened in this game, in this sequence, in the specific moment when two Dodgers players stepped into a pressure situation and responded with something that the rivalry deserved. The Angels dugout felt it. The Angels organization, processing a back-to-back sequence in a rivalry game that carries the stakes the Freeway Series always carries, absorbed something that extended beyond the immediate competitive consequence of two-run scoring. It absorbed a message. About the depth of the roster across the field. About the capacity of players beyond the famous names to deliver when the famous names are not the reason the game turns. About what the Dodgers can produce when the moment arrives and the players in that roster, every one of them, at every level of established recognition, meet it. Championship rosters are not built from stars alone. This is the truth that back-to-back home runs from Pages and Muncy in a Freeway Series game illustrates with specific force. The Dodgers' championship ceiling is connected, inevitably, obviously, to the performance of the players whose names fill the headlines and whose contracts fill the financial pages. That connection is real and it matters and nobody is pretending otherwise. But the floor, the baseline of competitive excellence that gives a roster the resilience to navigate difficulty, to win games in which the marquee performers are not the reason, to sustain a championship-level standard across the full length of a season that has no mercy for teams whose depth is insufficient, that floor is built from exactly the kind of performance that Pages and Muncy produced. Two players. One veteran, one young. Both delivering in a rivalry game that demanded delivery. Both doing it sequentially, in the specific back-to-back pattern that transforms individual excellence into collective power. That is what championship depth looks like. Not in the abstract. In the specific, measurable, permanent reality of two baseballs clearing the fence in consecutive at-bats in the Freeway Series. The stars get the headlines. The back-to-back gets the win. The Freeway Series has produced its share of memorable moments across the decades of its existence. Games that turned on a single play. Performances that defined a player's relationship with this particular rivalry for years afterward. Moments that the city carried into the weeks following and that both organizations used to calibrate their understanding of where they stood relative to each other. This game added two more. Andy Pages, young and hungry and prepared for exactly the moment that arrived, sending a baseball over the fence in the specific heat of a Los Angeles derby and feeling, perhaps for the first time at this level, in this context, what it means to deliver when the stage is largest. Max Muncy, veteran and knowing and carrying the accumulated confidence of a career that has survived and grown through every kind of adversity, watching his young teammate deliver and then stepping in and delivering immediately after, the back-to-back that turned a single moment into a sequence, a highlight into a statement. 2 players. 2 swings. One conversation about what this Dodgers team actually is when the players beyond the spotlight are asked to step into it. They answered the question. Back-to-back. In the Freeway Series. In Los Angeles. Where the story was always going to belong to someone. This time, it belonged to them.